Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Intelligent Community, the podcast of the Intelligent Community Forum. We're glad you came home. I'm Lou Zaccarella, a founder of the ICF. This week, we continue our Moment of Truth series where we ask leaders of the Smart Cities movement when they realized they had gone beyond smart and had become intelligent communities. So today we go to the state of Ohio in the United States to speak with a two-time top 7 city and one that has led the intelligent community movement in the Midwestern United States for the past 15 years. With me today is the city manager for Dublin, Ohio, Mr. Dana McDaniel. Joining Dana is Greg Dunn. Greg is a partner in the Columbus law firm of Ice Miller. These two guys teamed up in the early 2000s to do something remarkable and transform Dublin, Ohio in the process. This series is brought to you by the Institutes for the Study of the Intelligent Community in Dublin, Ohio, and in Hsinchu, Taiwan. Dana McDaniel and Greg Dunn, welcome to the Intelligent Community.
Good to be here.
For having us, appreciate it.
You know, you guys come at this Intelligent Community project, which, as I said, is really world famous now, from different angles. You worked on it as a team, and again, it was, as I said, a remarkable achievement. But you had a different approach to it. Greg, if I ask you the question, when was your moment of truth that the work you had put into this had gone from just success, getting that doubling project, that infrastructure in the ground, to something way different, something much bigger than maybe you even expected? What would you say that was?
Well, the project's always been hard to define a moment. I viewed it as an incremental process. We started, not to correct you, but it was actually as early as 1995 working on doubling. Dana and I both saw the economic development, maybe not as the economic development possibility, maybe not as we didn't see it as great as it ended up being, but we saw that very early. But we started the fiber in 1998. That was in Dublin. Then we realized we needed to connect to more things. We built more fiber, in the early 2000s. Then we realized we needed to connect data centers. And then Dana worked on developing an entrepreneurial center. So it's been one step has led to the next step, led to the next step, led to the next step. But to define a moment, I suspect it's when, people started calling us to ask, how could they do it too? And that's probably when you realized you had something really good. But I thought it was really good from the start.
Yeah. And, thank you for that correction. And I also, you guys came on our radar screen a little bit after that. But I don't want to leave it by letting people think that this was just something, you decided to do and rolled ahead. This was a battle in the early stages, wasn't it, for you guys?
Well, it was a battle in the sense of it was so unusual. We're talking in the mid 1990s, and one of the drivers was we were having competitive local exchange carriers cut our streets. We needed to fix that problem, and so we came up with the idea of a conduit system with fiber in it, and one thing just led to the next one.
Yeah. Dana, same question to you. I believe you were assistant city manager at the time, or deputy city manager. But again, you were the guy, you were the point guy on this, you were the visionary on it. For you, having watched this thing evolve as it has so successfully, was there a moment of truth, or was it incremental for you? When did you kind of realize, I've done something that's a legacy that's going to be around for generations?
Well, Greg, I'm really glad Greg's on here with me, because his memory will serve much better than mine. But I think he's absolutely. Thanks for all the compliments, Lou, and for the great recollection, Greg, on that. I have to agree with Greg. Your moment needs to be plural, needs to be moments of truth, because we've had lots of them, and I would say we've had a lot of those because we've been involved with the ICF, and because the ICF has provided us such a great framework by which to. I'm glad we found you early, and that you guys were able to help us through this evolution of what we call doubling into all these different things we forayed into. And that's, to me, there have been a couple of big moments. I agree with everything Greg said. I think finding the ICF as a framework and helping us was a huge helped us. And that was a big moment of truth for us that helped us realize we had gotten into building conduit systems and then populating the fiber optics, but to put it into a context of which we could go from being smart, we were trying to be smart for all the reasons Greg stated, but then to become intelligent and to really leverage that. And I tell this story all the time. When Lou visited us one time, he said, well, Dana, it's one thing that you've got all this infrastructure in the ground. What's more important is what are you going to do with it? And so for us, we were already doing some things, but we really started leveraging, I think, more aggressively our economic development. I think we can really account for nearly 30,000 jobs in the city associated with fiber optics. I feel very confident it's close to 30,000, if not more. Our $3.2 million investment really is close to maybe $7 after all these years. It's had over $40 million return on investment for us if we quantify that. It's probably even more than that now. I haven't looked at that really for a couple of years. But it was foraying into those other things, be it economic development, the entrepreneurial center. We have some very large companies that have agreed to stay in Dublin or otherwise come to Dublin. Some new develops that have spurred as a result of the having fiber optic system. We've been a hub for our Ohio Academic Resource Network, which connects up all the colleges and universities throughout Ohio. We're kind of a central hub. There's just so many different ways that we've gone. I think another, so that aha moment that you gave, and that it was kind of a shaming moment in a way, but it was also an aha moment.
I wasn't trying to shame you.
No, it wasn't real, but you made me think and go, wow, you're right.
Yeah.
That's one of those aha moments that you have.
Uh-huh.
But I think the other big thing was we really, and as Greg alluded to, the other aha moment was when people called us and said, how did you guys do this? And we weren't the only ones, venturing into this. There were a couple others in Ohio, but I would say we were probably one of the earlier ones, if not earliest ones into it. And I think as a result, a lot of cities around Central Ohio and Ohio have benchmarked off of us and sometimes sit and worry about they're doing it better than we are now, but which is probably the case in some cases. And I think what we came to realize, the other aha moment is that this just, excuse my Midwestern way of looking at this, it just ain't rocket science. It just wasn't, it's hard, but it's not in the undoable column. And once you realize you can do this and you do it for the right reasons, you can really make great things happen, and so that, and I think as a result of the people reaching out to us over time, we had the Institute here in Dublin, the ICF Institute. We still look at ourselves as that place that wants to help others. Right now we're leading a coalition of not only cities now, but K through 12 broadband, villages, townships, counties, economic development organizations throughout the state in an initiative to make sure that we're all in the position to be able to continue to provide broadband, because our state, like many other states here in the United States, have looked at maybe forbidding locals from being involved in broadband. So we continue that effort as well. I don't think they're going to send us backwards. I think we'll keep forging ahead, but I don't mean to give you a commercial on all the things we're doing by this, but there's so hard to answer because there's just been such an evolution of opportunities and activities and projects. And
it's it's been a very full plate of achievement. As I said, remarkable when you really break it down. I think where a lot of people, as they're Googling, as they listen to this, right, to find out more about Dublin, they hear you say 30,000 jobs. That will get their attention. Now, just to be clear, you guys are not a big population. You're under 50,000, right?
Correct.
So
we're like at 49,900. We didn't.
Is that right?
Break the 50,000 mark with the census.
Right. Now, when those 30,000 jobs started to percolate, did that surprise you at all, or had you guys said, we expect this?
Well, we're a city of 50,000, but we have about 70,000 jobs a day that come to Dublin to work. That's been our land use model for decades. And so, by the way, with a lot more room to grow commercially. So, we've always done well with that, but I think the Dublink system and the way we leveraged it helped to continue to anchor people here and attract more people. So I think it was an added economic development tool that we never had before that we realized we could leverage. And I see Greg's got something he wants to add.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah.
I don't want to step on your premise, but I think aha moments is better than a moment of truth, because we had a number of them. One of them was in the economic development sphere was giving away fiber. I mean, who would think that giving away fiber
right.
would be so powerful? We gave fiber to the Ohio Academic Resources Network. They ended up using our fiber as their central Ohio hub, and they ended up running 100 gig into Dublin in a data center that's in Dublin that we have multiple fibers into. So we got that, and also the jobs that we've kept. I mean, once you give fiber to a big organization and they start utilizing it, they really can't leave your community
Mm.
if they're tied to that fiber. And who knew? I mean, we started doing it, and it just turned out to be a really powerful tool, giving it away.
Well, Greg, you guys, typical Ohio guys, you low key everything. You sandbag me here because you must have known this would be an incentive, right? Is that one of the major factors to success, you think?
I don't think we really knew early. I mean, we were really focused on, and let's go back to the naivety of this. We were really trying to avoid, after the Telecom Act of 96, we had just built $70 million as a small town at the time, which was big money, had just built $70 million worth of new roadway infrastructure in one of our legacy office parks and in the immediate area around it. And then the Telecom Act of 96 happens. And what do they want to do? It's the old, T.O. Rice, or whatever the name of that company is, that we want to build it out one customer at a time, right? So they wanted to come back and cut up the right of way over and over. So this was just us trying to protect the right of way initially.
Mm-hmm.
And then it grew into connecting our public facilities. And then we had, one opportunity where we connected, we had a couple opportunities where we connected a local company that was in two different buildings. And we showed how we could connect those two buildings through our fiber optics. And then we connected, you may have heard of the Battelle Research Center. They had
Sure.
They're here in Columbus, Ohio. Battelle is one of the largest not-for-profit research institutes in the world, and they were founded in Columbus, Ohio, but they had a satellite operation in Dublin, and we connected them. And those were our early forays into understanding, well, wow, we can do our own network and save money and have cost avoidance. Not only that, we could leverage the fiber so others can do that.
Mm-hmm.
We have one of our major hospital systems here in Central Ohio. All of their hospitals, administration, all of their IT operations are all operating off of our fiber optic system, not just in Dublin, but throughout Central Ohio. And I'm talking, dozens of facilities that they have hooked on it. And so we didn't realize what we were getting into until we got into it. And then
Right.
started formulating those in our economic development agreements and how we could leverage that to retain and attract and expand jobs.
Yeah,
Right.
you have to remember, we started doing this in the 90s. So, I mean, people thought, economic development was a crazy idea. I mean, Dana didn't, but
Right.
a lot of people thought it was really goofy.
Yeah. And again, you guys have always been kind of out on the curve. There was also wasn't there you guys built Baptist Hospital there, didn't you? Isn't that one of your projects?
Dublin Methodist Hospital, which is part of the
Baptist Methodist. I'm sorry. Yeah.
built a hospital here, and that's when but actually what was even before the hospital built, they wanted to put what's called a revenue cycle office here in Dublin, which was a back office operation. So it was, was revenue operations. So it was several hundred jobs. And so we were negotiating incentives for them, and they kept, what else you got to offer us? What else you got to offer us? And I knew we were in competition for a couple other sites. So one day I met with them, but I had taken a map of Central Ohio and I laid out all their facilities on it. And I showed where our fiber optic loop, we actually have a fiber optic loop that goes outside of 25, 30 miles of this fiber optic loop is in Dublin, but we have 100 miles of fiber optics outside of Dublin.
Right.
And so I plotted all of their medical facilities around this map. And at the end of the meeting, I said, hey, I don't know what else to offer you guys, but we own this fiber optic system. If you guys think you can use it. Now I knew in the back of my head they could.
Right.
I wasn't sure they would take it. Well, I look at the chief finance officer, and he trying to figure out which way to turn the map. And I look at the chief legal counsel and he's putting it in his briefcase. But I look over at their CIO, and I don't know any other way to explain it than he was excited. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
By the time I could get to my car after the meeting, my bag phone rang, the old cell phones, and they were like, okay, we got a deal, because I knew the chief information officer would get it, and they hooked their entire system up to it, and it's still hooked up to it today. And
well, we tied it in the economic development package, so if the jobs ever left Dublin, we got the fiber back. So when they did a big new development in Columbus, Ohio, and they were trying to get out of the deal, the previous economic development deal, and then they realized they're going to lose all their fiber, so they couldn't move the jobs.
So so a great point of leverage on them.
But they've been a great partner too, and I can tell you when we've had issues at the State House or whatever, they've been a big advocate of locally owned fiber. So I certainly want to give them
props.
Yeah, and that's another moment of truth, right? You understood. And again, that's the thing I've always wanted to study even a little further and talk about. You guys really redefined and understood the role of government. We've had this big argument in our country, I'm in America today, but 40 years, what's the role of government? What's the role of the private sector? How do they balance each other? I think you guys really, you talk about the laboratory, you guys really figured that out. I mean, you just spent the last 5 or 10 minutes talking about it. And again, I'm not sure people understand how big a breakthrough that was and how much that conversation needs to go forward. And again, you guys were leading on that.
That's a great point, Lou. And I think that's where we're at a culminating point in Ohio on this now. And I think that's the education effort that we're trying to do with all the partners I explained earlier throughout the state, is that, there is a role in government. Now, Europe, our European friends get it. I mean, there's lots of ICF models out of Europe and Asia that get the role of government in doing that. And in the States and in Canada too, probably we have, the competitive environment of telecommunication companies, and they have so much stranded deployed plants out there that they're afraid, locals like us will come in and really cause them harm in their economic model. Our view of this isn't to be the telecom provider. Our model is, and I think this is what we're trying to spread here, is need to educate people on what it is and what locals, and I'm using the word locals now, not just cities, because it's townships and it's economic organizations and it's counties and it's, in Ohio we have lots and lots of jurisdictions. So it's what role we play as a gap provider, and we're trying to get even the industry to understand that, look, we can be a partner. We don't have to do what you do. We can be an enabler. We can be a partner. We can fill gaps. There's things that we can do that you can't. And by the way, local governments are pretty good at building infrastructure. It's what we do.
Exactly.
Let's do that for you. So anyway, that's
you got it. And that enabler, I think, is the right word. It's the positive use of the word. And I just have to, that Baptist Methodist Hospital, I remember going through there. It was really impressive. And it just occurred to me, this is what we mean when we talk about improving the lives of citizens. It was so, it was almost a transformative experience for patients and people who visited them. It was equipped with internet at the time. It was a big deal.
That's right, So Dublin Methodist Hospital was
just an amazing place.
Truly a one of a kind design. It was called the Pebble Project, and it's designed for it was one of the first hospitals to be completely paperless. People came from all over the world to see it. I
remember that. And it was one of the first hospitals built in many, many decades, I think. So again, you're moving into the 21st century, the digital century. Last question, real quickly, guys, because I know you got to get back to work, to run a city and run a law firm. Greg, if I were to ask you now what, the question I asked Dana, and he answered very, very well many years ago. Now what? What's next on the intelligent community map, do you think?
Well, I think it is, at least for us, because of COVID, we've all realized how important it is to work at home. And one of the big movements in Dublin has been to attract workers, especially workers that are high level jobs. And if we're going to keep those people in Dublin, we need to move the connectivity out to the residential area. And 100 up and 100 down is probably going to be required if you're going to run businesses out of your house or you're going to work at home. So, I mean, that's what we're looking at now. We're trying to study that and see if we can get our, because heretofore we haven't been a provider of services. We've been an enabler, and that'd be a move for us. But we're that's what we're looking at.
Let me add, if I could, Lou, if I could.
Sure.
Greg mentioned this earlier that we have 100 gig capability. We actually can run support and service as an intermediary, dark fiber at 100 gig capability or capacity back to a local data center where that local company can choose from among 36, I think we're up to 36 providers in that local data center. The local data center has packaged up a service where they can push out to a local company a package deal where you can pay one price and access 3 different providers at any moment. All you got to do is go on your computer and you can switch among providers. So if one of them's operating slowly that day, or you're just mad at them, you can switch over to another one, but you're buying it in a package. So it's a pretty phenomenal service if you think about that. Now that may be available everywhere. I don't know, but it's new to us. But now we're looking at going to the residential areas. We're doing a study on that, and I know many of our ICF friends and others are actually doing that in the residential areas.
Yeah.
That's a big decision to make, and how you want to do that. But you think about the upload download speeds we're getting in Ohio and in Dublin, Ohio, and we're serviced by 2, in some cases 3 providers in a neighborhood in Dublin, which is why we didn't go to the residential areas. We stayed out of that. But what we're finding is they're not providing it they've done a good job through COVID. I don't want to take anything away from them. But my city council has made a goal for me to achieve. They want to be the most connected city in the United States, if not in the world. That's the goal they gave me.
Wow.
So we have to look at how do we make it more robust to meet all those things that Greg was talking about at the highest speeds possible in the home. And that's exactly what we're working on next. And so I don't think that's just going to be Dublin. It's going to be our region. And if we're going to compete globally, that's what we got to be. We just got to do it. And we do that in partnership with the industry providers. We don't want to be the provider. We want to be the enabler. So that's what we're trying to figure out right now.
Right. And as Greg said, in response to COVID, it's going to be a different world. It's going to be a different workforce. And
I want to give my council credit, though. I got to say this. 5 years ago, we saw this was in response to the change in work. The future of work was changing, and we knew it was going to change. It's just that COVID made it happen about 5 years sooner than we thought it was going to happen.
Yeah.
So we're now behind. So
exactly, Danny. Yeah. And we see that with a lot of other ideas. We did a session with a bunch of urban planners, and they said, we've had these great ideas on the board for 15 years, but now they've come fast forward. So maybe the unintended consequences will be positive if intelligent communities like yours, continue to work at it. Well, listen, guys, I really appreciate the time and you guys sharing with me your moment of truth, or your aha moment. I like aha. I also have to say, leadership is important. John Young always lectures about leadership, and I don't know whether you guys develop those skills or whether you're just gifted with them. But your ability to lead and to communicate has been, I think, fundamental to keeping that city, near the top ranks of intelligent communities. So I really commend you on that. It's a really important thing that we've observed there. So
Thank you.
Good luck going forward.
appreciate it.
And we'll continue to watch you guys. I can't wait to get back out there.
Well, hello to all of our ICF friends out there too, by the way. We appreciate it. We've learned a lot from them. We appreciate what they have helped us with over the years. So
Thanks, Lou.
Well, that concludes our conversation with Dana McDaniel and Greg Dunn, leaders of the intelligent community movement in the state of Ohio in the United States. For more information about Dublin, visit dublinohiousa.gov. And for more information about the law firm of Ice Miller, visit icemiller.com. This series is produced as a service to our network of intelligent communities and movement followers around the world. Special thanks to the ICF Institutes in Dublin, Ohio, and Hsinchu, Taiwan, for their support. Support also comes from the members of the Intelligent Community Forum. Shout out to our series producer, Matt Owen. Join us from Winnipeg, Canada in February for the Smart 21 announcement, From Conflict to Community. To register, go to intelligentcommunity.org/smart21. Smart 21. Hey, if you like this podcast, you can hear a new one every other Monday here at intelligentcommunity.org or on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And be sure to follow us on Twitter at New Communities and on Facebook. For the intelligent community, I'm Lou Zaccarella, reminding you that there really is no place like home. Take care, everybody.